Hello, and thanks for joining the webinar. Today we're going to talk about the power of philanthropy and specifically how to use donor-advised funds to make the maximum impact you can on the charitable causes that you care about. My name is Craig Swiston. I'm Portfolio Manager here at Lexicon Financial Group at Raymond James Investment Counsel, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us today. First, a quick agenda. We're going to take a look at some of the giving trends, the charitable landscape in Canada. We'll move on to some of the cultural changes that are shaping the future direction of philanthropy. We will talk a little bit about donor advised funds. What are they? How do they work? And then we'll include some next steps around how we might be able to assist you in choosing the charities that you care most deeply about and how to actually get started with that. But first, let's take a look at some of the giving trends in Canada by way of a very quick quiz. We'll go through this very quickly. The first question, according to Statistics Canada, how much did Canadians give to charitable organizations in 2021? You may be surprised that that number is a staggering $11.8 billion was donated by Canadians to charitable organizations in 2021. Which age group donated the most per capita in 2021, according to Statista.com? And if you give this a little bit of thought, you may actually come up with the correct answer, which is older Canadians tend to donate more than younger Canadians. They've donated an average of $3,310 per capita. Those were the Canadians that were 65 years of age or older. What percentage of overall charitable giving was directed to the top 10% of causes? And this is an important question because with 86,000 charities in this country alone, it becomes clear that there's a challenge with the smaller and more medium-sized charities because 60% of all charitable revenues go to the top 1% of charities. So we're definitely living in a world where the large charities are getting the lion's share of donations, and that has an impact on what smaller and more medium-sized charities are able to accomplish in this country. Final question. Between 1990 and 2020, how much has giving declined in Canada in percentage terms? There's a hint in the question. Giving has in fact declined in real terms. It has declined by just over 11% over the last 30 years. And this becomes a problem because in real terms, when you take out inflation, giving has actually increased. But in terms of charities having the revenue they need to accomplish or expand their mission, there's been a long-term secular decline in the number of assets. And this has led to what Canada Helps has described as a giving gap. Costs are up, donations are down, and it makes it harder for established nonprofits to accomplish their goals and objectives in that environment. So that's a little bit of the trends of where we are in Canada as we sit today. But let's take a look at the broader cultural shift in the philanthropic landscape, because there is a shift going on, and it is shifting from charities asking to donors giving. And here's what I mean by that. Ask is a charity-centered way of looking at the world. The charity has the expertise. The connection to the cause is in the hands of that charity. They have the solution, or they've built the solution to respond to the issue at hand. And the call to action generally is based on their need. Charities will ask you to support their existing work. But there's a shift underway, and that's the shift to the donor. What does the donor care about? What is their expertise? What is their cause, or what is their personal connection to the cause that they're willing to support? And how do their resources, their time, their treasure, their money, and even their talent, how do they respond with their full suite of resources to be able to make these changes in the world? And a lot of times the donor is focused because of a personal life event that has happened or occurred to them or someone that they know. And so it's a much more personal approach to seeking out the charities that they're aligned with, as opposed to waiting to be asked to give to a charity that already exists. And part of this shift has really been fueled by the fact that new structures and strategies have emerged that have disrupted the traditional philanthropic landscape. There's an increased adoption of donor-advised funds, which we'll cover today. There's also been a rise of entrepreneurial wealth as opposed to generational wealth, which means that more people who are coming into wealth are thinking more strategically about their giving patterns. But technological advancements that allow things like crowdfunding to exist, this didn't exist before. But most importantly, today, all of us, including donors, have an unprecedented amount of access to information, not just about charities and their work, but about the causes that are affecting our world. And we see how the marketplace has responded to these disruptive forces. There's been a democratization of giving. Anybody can support any cause that they care deeply about, regardless of where it is in the world. Donors are absolutely much more educated, and that gets back to the access to information. But let's not underestimate the power of social media that has an impact on donor behavior. Awareness has become something that's very, very important. As more and more charities compete for attention, some that are using social media have been able to elevate themselves in the minds of their potential donors. Donors are no longer saying, I support this cause because I've always supported this cause. They're taking action and thinking strategically about the causes they want to support. And sometimes they're changing those causes based on the change in their circumstances, the changing of their family circumstances, or the changing of the communities around them. So engagement is a big part of what's been fueling the cultural shift. But today we're going to focus on donor-advised funds. Here's a brief introduction to donor-advised funds. Many don't know that donor-advised funds have been around for an awfully long time, but it's only recently that they have become one of the fastest growing ways in Canada to support charitable causes. And part of the reason for that is that they are a very sophisticated but cost-effective way to simplify strategic philanthropy. We'll go through a chart in a moment to bring some visuals to it, but essentially a donor works with a provider to establish a fund which offers all of the benefits of a private foundation without the high cost and administrative burdens. Because it's cost effective, flexible, and simple, it allows clients to seamlessly incorporate giving, whatever their charitable giving strategy is, into their overall financial plan. For our clients that have charitable intent, we will actually write a giving policy statement which documents and outlines all of the reasons why they've selected the charities they have and the strategies that we will employ going forward to maximize their ability to support those causes to the best of their ability. But let's stick to donor-advised funds. How do they work? A donor-advised fund, often referred to as a DAF, D-A-F, is in fact a registered charity. Any donation made to a donor-advised fund is irrevocable, but that's exactly the same as any donation made to any charity. You make your donation, whether you donate in cash or with appreciated securities or gifts of life insurance. Once you make the donation, you will qualify for a charitable donation tax credit, which you can use to offset some of the income taxes payable in the year you've made the donation. Some donations can be carried forward for up to 5 years, so check with your professional advisors and tax accountants on that. After you've made the donation, you simply identify the charitable causes that you want to support, and the Donor Advised Fund platform will support them with grants from your giving account. You are granting money from the money that you've previously donated to the charity, and it doesn't come from your investment or your bank account at this point forward. This gives you the flexibility and control because rather than donating to one charity, you can donate to multiple charities each year. You can change the amount you grant each year, and you can even change the receiving organizations. Ultimately, you can change the charitable organizations that receive the grant from your donor advised fund giving account. But I think one of the most important things is that a donor advised fund actually separates the charitable giving piece and the tax portion around that from the granting piece. And this is especially important if you've experienced maybe a life event where you have a large taxable event, maybe the sale of a business, for example, in a given year. You can work with your accountant to determine a tax strategy that involves charitable donations into a donor advised fund that may allow you to gift or grant from that fund over a multi-year period or perhaps in perpetuity. And all of this is certainly more cost effective than a traditional family foundation. You don't have the need for registration. You don't have the need for a board of directors. The donor advised fund platform does all of this for you. So here's a chart. Tried to make it simple. If you are a donor, you make a donation to the donor advised fund, and in exchange, you get a tax receipt. You go off with your accountant to use that tax receipt to reduce your taxable income. Then as a separate decision, you decide, yourself, your family, however you've arranged your affairs, you decide which charity or charities will benefit from grants each and every year. And again, the amount you grant, even the charities you grant to, can be changed at any time. So it's the ultimate flexibility. One of the other benefits of a donor advised fund is you can identify a successor grantor. What that means is that if you've established a donor advised fund and after you pass away, you can identify somebody else who will take over making the granting decisions on behalf of the fund. So as an example, if you are living in Calgary and you open a donor advised fund, and then after you pass away, your children who might be living in Edmonton, they may no longer want to support Calgary-based charities. They may want to support Edmonton-based charities. And if you've given them that ability as the successor grantor, then they will take over the granting decisions of the fund. I should warn you, though, I've told this story before, and many people will tell me that nobody from Calgary would ever move to Edmonton, so I'll just leave that one right there. But let's take a look at some of the other benefits of using a donor advised fund. Donors can choose to be recognized by the charitable causes they grant to, or they can remain anonymous. And for many families, remaining anonymous is important to them. You can remain anonymous in that the donor advised fund will never pass your information on, but you can also inject an air of anonymity to it just by how you name your fund. You could name it the Schmidt family, or you could name it the Yellow Moon family. One goes a little bit further to identifying who you are as a family making those donations. A donor advised fund account can generally be set up and funded in less than a week. I don't recommend that anybody rush into a charitable giving situation, but if something needs to be done in a taxation year, all of these donations and these strategies can be executed fairly quickly. The tax receipts that you receive can be used immediately or carried forward in the case of an individual for up to 5 years to reduce the amount of income tax payable. And as I said earlier, you can designate a successor to continue recommending grants from the donor advised fund when you're gone. All donor advised funds have professional oversight and manage all of the aspects of tax and regulatory filings. There's no need for any of that. There's no need to file what they call a T3010, and there's no need to have your own individual boards of directors. You may wish to establish a non-binding advisory board, maybe it's members of your family or your local community, where on an annual basis you sit down and review not just the amount that you're granting from your donor advised fund, but also the charitable organizations that are receiving that grant. This is what we like to write in a written giving policy statement, just to make sure that everybody who's involved in the giving decisions makes sure they understand what their roles and responsibilities are. But one of the key things that becomes a challenge sometimes is choosing a charity and getting started. And we invite people to ask a few simple questions. What causes are you most passionate about? And a little bit different, but what issues are you most concerned about? Are you concerned about international issues? Are you concerned about issues that affect us as a country? Or are you concerned about issues that are closer to home, that may be more immediate needs in your local community? Most importantly, what are your values and how do they align with the mission and vision of the organizations that you're considering? And, Simon Sinek wrote that the compelling higher purpose that inspires us and acts as the source of all we do is really your why. Why are you setting up a giving plan? Why are you interested in giving back to support the communities that have nurtured you over the course of your life? That's an important decision. And if you're having difficulty coming to terms with that, we actually offer a complimentary workshop for individuals or small groups called What's Past is Prologue, that creates a kind of a framework to help you evaluate all of the causes that have had an impact on your life and to help you narrow down the organizations that you choose to grant to. If that's something you're interested in, please reach out directly and we'll love to have a conversation about that. This webinar and all of our other webinars are available on our website. In addition, you'll find longer form articles where we often write about issues related to the charitable or nonprofit sector, as well as general information articles about investing in general. Not only what's going on in the world, but how we view things and how we think about it. As always, all of this information is available for free at lexiconfinancialgroup.com. There's no paywall, there's no gateway. We believe information and education should be free to everybody. That said, if you have a specific question about your investment portfolio or you just want to have a conversation about enhancing your charitable giving strategy, please feel free to contact us at the numbers on the screen. We believe that in order to make charities more efficient, we need to have more educated donors. We've dedicated a portion of our business to working with generous Canadians to make sure that they understand that there are options when it comes to giving. If these options are something that you would like to explore, again, please reach out at the numbers on the screen. Please check our website and our other webinars where we will be discussing other ways that you can maximize the impact you can have on the charitable causes you care most about. As always, thank you for joining us for this webinar, and I look forward to speaking to you in the near future.